You may have heard recently about the artificial intelligence program ChatGPT.
Some University of Minnesota law professors wanted to find out just how smart it is. They wanted to know if it could pass their final exams. Adam Duxter shares how the results are surprising the professors and students alike.
So, Eric, ChatGPT.
It's the rage.
Taking over the world. What do you think? So they tested it to see if it could pass a law school exam. What do you think happened?
I'm sure it passed with flying colors.
But has technology gotten to the point where it can actually practice law?
No, but that doesn't mean that it isn't dangerous to a lot of people. I am not a lawyer, which I have to say a lot because I hang out with you weirdos. But from what I understand, there are a lot of lawyers. And by the way, I work in programming, a lot of computer programmers too, who will be very threatened by this, especially in the case of lawyers, first year, second year associates, because I think, and paralegals, because isn't the whole job to find relevant case law for something that they're working on or developing, and also write contracts and a lot of, dare I say, repetitive type of work that I would think that ChatGPT or AI will be amazing. If you have the entire legal library of all decisions that have been made plugged into an AI system, you just say, I need all laws that are relevant to gun control between this period or that period, or whatever it might be, or I need a precedent for this particular case. That's AI all the way.
Yeah. Because you're taking the search function from the human brain and into this, and you're able to ask it certain questions. But I will say this: I think it's more systemic than you're making it out to be. I think even your news, like right now, newspaper articles are being written by ChatGPT, right? So
BuzzFeed, they laid off people.
Yeah, because
I know
it's there, right? So you're talking about journalists, newspaper articles, these type of things. So Chat GPT is I think it's going to change the way humans communicate. I think because
hold on, I got to push back a little because I love the fact that yes, it is replacing BuzzFeed writers. That's interesting to me, especially because some of the salacious BS.
Yeah,
BuzzFeed is known as a listicle maker. Top 10, blah, 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 right?
Yes.
So let's go ahead and look at the journalism thing a little bit more. Do you honestly think that ChatGPT can replace a legitimate journalist? Can ChatGPT replace Glenn Greenwald? Someone who will go pound the pavement, knock on a door, talk to somebody, interview, hey, did you see what happened? Collect the information and draw a story and a conclusion out of their research and effort? I don't think they can because it's not going to walk around and talk to the people. Maybe it can somehow communicate with them through computer mechanisms, but does that mean they're going to do that? Can it draw it from AI phone conversation like polling? I think it'd be great for polling. So I think we need to really break it down. What can it do and can't it do? Because it's very important for our, quote, survival past this thing.
Well, I think contextualizing it as you did, my issue would be I don't think a Glenn Greenwald it would be able to well at this point in time. I think eventually yes, but I think at this point in time because this is just like with Jeopardy, right? There was no AI can do Jeopardy until then. Eventually they had one that could answer Jeopardy questions. But I think in this particular context, I think no. But I think Glenn Greenwald, your example of Glenn Greenwald is it's the four-leaf clover in a field of clovers because most of your news today
is garbage,
is hot action. We got to get it out in a certain, in a couple, in a certain hour thing. So with that, I think ChatGPT will, because again, like even with the situation that we're going on with Christopher Boozy and all this stuff, right? Where one person in a news article doesn't do the due diligence, calls him an expert, and then every other newspaper a news article just looks for who's an expert in this? Oh, this newspaper said he's an expert, and they just kind of get that aggregate news.
But
so
that's good.
That is
that's
where
a feature.
GPT is going to take over the news, and that's like I think 95% of the news that we get. It's this aggregate news, that's hot. Let's get it out in 2 minutes versus doing the Glenn Greenwald. Let's talk to this person. Let's do this. Let's investigate this and get the true facts. Before any facts are known, you already got a story that needs to be written to tell people that we're looking for facts. You know what I mean?
Right. So I'm going to argue and be contrarian and
Mm-hmm.
say that's a feature. That's
Mm.
cleaning out the garbage. Because honestly, a listicle is not reportage. Okay, they can be replaced because it's ultimately replaceable. you, there are things that are distinctly human and things that are not. A
Yeah.
wire story, you write a story, and it's in every paper, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then somebody just cycles out the parts of it, and then they put it out again. Hell, you could argue what we're doing is regenerative. There you go. We're taking content that's out there and we're expressing our opinions on it. I'd like to think that we're adding value, and please comment below and let us know. But we're adding value and trying to look into nuance. So this is where I'm saying that we can coexist with ChatGPT and things like that, because it takes care of the grunt work, the brute force work, like I said, just go find that relevant case law. So now ChatGPT can replace the associate that's looking up all the relevant case law, right? All the
Because you got to
precedent.
read the cases. Yeah.
But now ChatGPT can't necessarily as effectively yet draw a new case based on the precedents and how their particular case is relevant or not relevant, and it does follow or doesn't follow. Now we're starting to get into the work of the thing, the convincing and the working with people who are in a jury.
Well, that is the thing with the law school exam now. Exactly what you said it can't do is exactly what this news article this news piece that we're watching is about, because that's what it does. With this Chat GPT, and this is why people were concerned. So the way a law school exam works is that they give you a base law, right? And they say, here are some facts. Now you are supposed to analyze those facts with this law and then come to the conclusion. You're making the case, right? You're making the case. You're supposed to be like, essentially like you're sitting like a judge and you're saying, how should this case come out based on this law and these facts? And then if and for law school exams generally, there's no right answer. The right answer is how you acknowledge how you essentially write the exam. So what they try to do, because I've written a couple of law school exams, is what they try to do is they try to give you, like for abortion, they'll say, okay, here's a case, and that case, it could come out that there's the right and there's not the right, and then you argue. So whichever way you come out, it doesn't matter. But it's whether you've taken the precedent and the law and applied it to the facts in a way where whatever your conclusion is doesn't matter. It's as long as you make the argument either way. So that's what they're talking about with ChatGPT. That's the danger, because if it can do that, then essentially you don't need lawyers, like you're saying, first, second, and maybe even third year associates, because they can literally write your briefs for you. Because that's what a law school essentially exam is. Taking it and writing the complaint and saying, this is what happened, and this is how these facts affect this law.
Well, let's watch and see.
Professor Dan Schwartz had his doubts.
Questions that we ask on law school exams are not, tell me when this law was passed, or not the types of things you could ask Google.
But as he graded his students' exams, he genuinely couldn't tell which one.
It organizes the answers.
Was a student.
First, Darla's liability for David's injury.
Or the AI program ChatGPT.
This tool is amazingly powerful.
Powerful enough to pass with a C+.
It's a passing grade at a really very good law school. Our students are really excellent. And it's a passing grade to very difficult questions.
It's all over Twitter, it's all over social media. Everybody, is posting about it in group chats, stuff like that.
Students like Brian Gatter couldn't believe it.
The part that almost surprised me is that it only got a C+, right?
Every show, like the Jetsons, that's the whole point, is that we're supposed to get replaced by robots at some point.
I felt fine because it was on the low end of the curve.
So it passed. Even with a C+.
C+ is fine.
Yes, but it passed.
Let's be honest. You care about the grade in law school, but a C+ is probably what you're going to get in a firm anyway. You only have so many hours, so much time, and you have to counter your effort versus billing, right?
Yeah, obviously. But it's the interesting part is that that process, because like the professor said, he was like, the process of if when was this law passed, that's like, anybody, that's literally a Google search, right? When was this law passed? But it's not when was this law passed, it's does this body of law apply to these facts? So you're actually looking for the law that it may apply to these certain situation of facts. That's a different process, and that's something that only generally before people can do. Now ChatGPT seems to be able to do that, because that's the kicker. Evaluate the facts and find the law that applies to these facts. Maybe contract law, maybe it may be criminal law, who knows? But that's what you're looking to do.
Right. And I'm not trying to say that it's a very basic level. Obviously, it's advanced in the sense that it's able to draw parallels and comparisons between things to say why these laws, because not every precedent lines up exactly. I would
No, of
argue
course
that
not.
all precedents don't line up 100%, because
Mhm.
it's people, it's real. It's like this incident is similar, but it's not the same. That's part of what you're arguing in court, right? Is how,
Mhm.
no, you match this conclusion, not that conclusion, because can't you find precedents on both sides of just about every argument? Like, oh no, the argument with this way in this case, but not in this case. But my case is more like that case that matches, not
Yeah.
yours is that garbage case over there that I don't want to see.
Yeah, we
Uh,
call it to analogize and distinguish. For good cases, you want to say my case is like this, that has the outcomes you want, and then for cases that are bad for you, that doesn't have then you say my case is different from that case, and these are the reasons why. So yeah, so that's what you're always doing with precedent, because like you're saying, you can find precedent on both sides.
Now, the Chat GPT has gone to the next level above Google. And by the way, Google's terribly threatened by this because it doesn't know it's beyond just searching for the specific thing that you know about. Like every time this thing has been said, it's beyond that. It is enhanced enough to understand these are precedents or could be precedents. So it's got a wider net, if you will, to
Yes.
bring it in, and that is the power, and also to filter through it, and to determine probably how this precedent may be closer or not closer or whatever. um all that is very scary, and it's and I again, I feel different ways. It's like, I don't know if we're headed to Skynet right now, but I have, it's so new, so rapid, it's in our face. And I think about other things, like how I've been talking to you on the side that we as humans are enabling artificial intelligence to replace us.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about, we stumbled into this because you're talking about the cameras. And I was saying, hey, I'm happy with my camera setup because I don't wish to be too clear or precise. I am not a handsome person necessarily. I don't need perfect detail. I just need it enough to you can see what I look like and read my expressions. Good to go. Don't need every nuance, every blemish out there. And then Nate pointed out, yeah, that's the problem with 4K, and everybody is turning into almost plastic people where they're painted on the screen. And I've taken this further, Nate, where I'm saying that we're trying to strip the humanity out of humans. And as soon as we do that, we are effectively replacing ourselves. If we paint ourselves, with every bit of makeup and airbrushing to where we no longer look human, we look like an Instagram print. Well, then why can't it be done by AI? Why do we have a human there?
A lot of this, from my understanding, a lot of this already seemingly is done, right? In terms of most of the things that we do as human beings, from all jobs, is really really repetitive, right? It's repetitive, but it's repetitive in a contextualized way. Like I have to do something specific that changes, right? But essentially it's the same thing, but it may just be a little bit different today versus a little bit, and that's why they have me doing it.
Mhm.
But chat gpt and these type of artificial intelligence can essentially do that to that basic level, because again, just like with law, right? It's the same argument, same cases. How many car accident cases are really different, right? They're all car accident cases, but there's little
Mhm.
nuances. That's why you have lawyers, right? And the same thing with you're talking about and all this other stuff. And I think the power it's twofold. It's like the Industrial Revolution, right? We found a way to make things easier, more consistent, and to have that repetition just essentially computerized. But to what part do we now turn over that to the AI so we can be free to do other things, right? Do
Right.
if
And
if,
that's
if,
the
if
key.
there's a car accident, do we really need lawyers to figure that out? Or if it's the same thing like every other car accident or 20,000 car accidents that we had that's going to have the same, then why not have the chat GPT write it up? Because we already know what the outcome should be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know what? I was just thinking about the irony of all this. Do you remember a few years back when Tim Pool went on with Joe Rogan
Hmm.
and Jack
Dorsey, yeah.
Dorsey and Vijaya Gadde?
Hmm.
And at the time, people were banned for replying to reporters that were getting laid off saying, learn to code.
Yeah.
And this came out of the whole thing of a lot of manufacturing workers, other workers were being laid off, losing their jobs. And people felt like that writers and editors and tech editors, et cetera, were being very
Hmm.
insensitive. We're saying, you just need to retrain, go learn to code. Well, here's the big irony. ChatGPT can code.
Yeah.
Oh, and ChatGPT can write the articles.
Yeah.
So I think that there's kind of a beautiful little nuance in here that the same snarky writers, who are getting it put back in their face of, yeah, learn to code, you're getting laid off, learn to code. Well, in a way, this is everything coming to fruition where learn to code, learn to write. Well, now something can do all of that. And you are right, Nate. We have to focus on, okay, obviously this is not a viable function for us. So
Yeah.
how can we use what it's already going to do? We can't stop it. I mean,
No.
this goes all the way back. I know I'm aging myself, but do you remember ATMs when they first came out? Automatic teller
Yes.
machines?
Yep. And they say it's gonna, but it did kill the teller. They said it was gonna kill the teller.
It didn't kill them completely, just 99%. I mean,
Yes.
it's
Yes. You still need tellers.
but because you do need people to handle things that are not completely clear and a machine can't as easily do.
Hmm.
So there's still a role. But there you go. We've got self-checkouts at the grocery stores now, right? Over and over and over. So now instead of having 5 lanes open with people, you have like one person who's supervising
20 cashiers.
yeah, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we already see that happening. And I'm saying that because this has been happening for a while, we're familiar with it. Maybe we need to look at ChatGPT as just the next ATM, the next self-checkout kiosk, and say, okay, so now how does this free us up to be more productive or to do something different? Because at this point, for example, in the grocery store analogy, ChatGPT can't stock the shelves yet. I'm not saying that you can't get a robot and potentially a robot could stock the shelves. That may be there, but right now that's a little out of scope, a little too expensive. Can't quite get there. So maybe we can look at these options. So I don't know. We've had this throughout time where technology is
Listen,
replacing people and labor.
you haven't seen the new robots at the supermarkets? You guys don't have the robots in the supermarkets now, down
No.
where you're at. Oh wow. All right. So up here in New York, we actually have robots in the supermarkets that are they look like towers with wheels, and they roll through the aisles, scanning all the aisles
Mhm.
to see like if there's things on the floor, if these items that are out
Inventory.
of stock and everything. Yeah, and they're constantly going, and they literally go around the store and check the inventory to make sure. So it's going to get to the point where that robot is going to have items in it, and when it's
Yeah. Oh,
stock this
yes.
item, that's stock this. So I don't think that's that far away. But what I
But that's why I said yet. That's why I
yes,
said
yes,
yet,
yes.
because I know that's coming. Right now, it doesn't quite get there yet,
Of course,
but
yeah.
but it ultimately will. So we need to be focused on, well, what's the next thing? And we can look at this with fear, just fair. because it is scary. I mean, you work your whole life, you do something, and then suddenly you're replaced. That's
But
not cool.
but you have technology does this, right? We were talking about this the other day, but the Radio Shack, right? If you take the Radio Shack circular from like '92, and then take
Mhm.
what's in your cell phone, and what did they do? They did everything so everybody understands everything that was in the Radio Shack circular was
Yes.
literally already on your phone, was on this phone right now. So
Yep.
hundreds of thousands of dollars of items in the Radio Shack back in the day are now in your $1,000 phone. So it's interesting to see, because all those people, from the people who worked at Radio Shack to the people who are building all those separate items, they're all out of a job. They're all out of a job. And we don't cry for the Radio Shack people, right? We don't cry for them. So
Yeah. Every single thing in that ad is in a phone that's in your pocket. And you were correct in saying that we don't cry for them. Yeah, we don't now, but that doesn't mean we didn't then. I mean, there are genuinely
that's
people who
true.
won't have Christmas this year. Okay. I don't want to downplay it. I'm just trying to think of, we can't stop it. You couldn't stop the ATMs. You can't stop the self checkouts because labor laws, things like that, a certain price of labor causes it worthwhile for the company to invest in it. All we can do is say, what is it that we can do? Now, I would argue it's scarier now than ever because of how wide the scope of AI is. Because I would say, oh, well, this is nice because we can't, these, menial jobs, and a lot of them are very repetitive, menial crap like that. You'd be like, oh, I'm going to go practice my artistic endeavors. Oh, shit. Because now AI is creating
The
art.
art. Well,
And even worse, going on to this, and I was saying that we're giving it to him. Rick Beato, who's a fantastic YouTube channel, I highly recommend it. Turn me on to this about the fact that quantizing, which is where you take the beats like from a drum or whatever, and you shift it to a timeline to make it fit perfectly, turns the drum playing into a robot playing it. You already have synthesizers doing it. You could do that with all the instruments. And then what's the one instrument we can't quite replace? Human voice, right? That's something that's distinct and individualistic to people. But then Cher came out with auto-tune, which has now taken over the world. And we take this situation where we are training voices and tuning them to where they no longer sound like the human who's emitting it. Or in the case of the makeup and things like that, remember, have you ever heard of the term uncanny valley?
no, I haven't heard the term.
Okay, uncanny valley is when something looks almost human, but
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
bottom line is
I know now.
almost, like it's just not quite there. I would argue that the auto tune is shifting real humans slightly away from humanity, that the makeup that has to be done and things like that for high def, or that they're doing in Instagram models and unrealistic expectations, all of this, we're shifting real humans a little away from humanity. So we actually are bridging uncanny valley. So a machine driven or AI driven creation is now matching the modified humanity. And so we won't be able to tell the damn difference because we did it to ourselves.
All right. See, I think that's the issue. I think that's the real issue here, right? The real issue isn't what AI can do, because eventually, just so everybody knows, AI is going to be driving your taxis. Eventually, it's going to be delivering your food. Even Amazon is doing thing with drones for packages, right? It figured out, hey, if we can get drones to deliver packages, and we can, have people in the back flying them, but they're going to fly themselves, and it's going to be cheaper. First, there are a couple of premises I want to make sure I point out. Number one, having AI do something is cheaper, more cost effective, and likely better than if a person does it, right? Let's talk. Let's just, and one example is your cashier at the supermarket, right?
Mhm.
That person's got to be paid. That person's got to have days off. That person's got to, can only work a certain amount of hours. That person's going to
Bathroom
make
breaks.
yeah, that person's going to make mistakes, right? Just like simple mistakes that you have to all put into the cost. All of that disappears with AI, right?
Mhm.
Or with a machine. The machine doesn't need a break. The machine works as long as
And
you
it
tell it
gets
to work, right?
cheaper as it goes. It gets
Yes.
cheaper as it goes. The longer that machine is used, what is it? Not itemization, but over time,
Yes.
it becomes even more and more valuable because you pay 100,000 for that machine or
Right now
200,000 for the machine. Well, you paid that last year, and now it's working
for
for
one
you.
person. Yeah.
It's just
But
working,
but
working, working.
the problem is with people, you have to pay that same $100,000 every year going forward. With the machine, you pay it the one-time cost, and you just pay maintenance costs, which is like maybe 1/10 of the cost of actually putting the thing in. Right? You may have to pay 1 or 2 people to keep the things going,
Bingo.
but you don't have to pay all those workers. Now, the thing is that I think capitalism is going to drive the end of what we're talking about here. I don't really think because capitalism always demands doing it cheaper, doing it better, and doing it more efficient to make more profits.
Mhm.
And Chat GPT, for whatever reason, can do it better, cheaper, and more efficiently. Just like we were saying with finding, instead of paying a first year associate $175,000 a year to find those cases, I can pay $175,000 and have Chat GPT find the cases faster, cheaper, and better for me, and things that I know are going to be read. Right? That's
And
the
worse,
difference.
it's going to replace 100 associates.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. How much
it
is
is
that worth? But
it's
it's not just that one
staggering
year.
because
It's
of that brute
every year.
force.
Yeah, it's not just that one year. Every year, right? Every year. So that one year, those 100 might go, but then the next year, you don't need those 100 again. The next year
Mm-mm.
after that. So after 5 years, you've saved so much and got so much back from it that it almost doesn't make sense to bring people. So that's something. I think the two things that are going to push this is the fact that we live in a capitalist society. That's the goal for it, and then we have this technology that's obviously is going to change the way everything works. But
I don't
let's
think
go
it's
back to
just
the.
capitalist, though. I
I'm
would
not saying
say,
just. I'm saying I think it's a
yeah.
part of capitalism is driven by efficiency and
Yeah, but
profits, right? So and that's what ChatGPT does for writing news articles. Why am I hiring
I
a thing
agree. I
when I can
agree.
have it write 20 articles for the one person and even write the articles better,
I,
right?
I, I agree with all that, but I'm saying that I think limiting it to capitalism is way short-sighted. I think the fact that you could just get it done and not have to deal with somebody works with all political ideologies. Really, it is
Well,
not a
socialism, no, because socialism is about the worker and
yeah, but
that
that's
type of
making
thing.
sure that they get paid, not necessarily that they can do it.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true. Because that I'm saying in that society, profits and profit sharing isn't really the goal. It's to keep people employed and work. So they would have in other words, they would have to have some system
we're
that
getting into
keeps them working. Yeah.
UBI. We're
Yeah.
getting into
Exactly.
UBI and crap like that.
Yeah.
I'm saying the technology is unstoppable
Yes, of
just
course.
because it is here. It is getting better. Eventually, you cannot avoid it. And so rather than trying to fight it every step of the way, I feel like we have to evolve around it. And it's so new and so vast. It's like, okay, so how do we draw the humanity back? And maybe it is to just be with each other, to talk to each other and build actual human relationships with those around us to give us the spiritual love, nourishment, and things like that. Because that I think is something that we've been missing. And I am arguing right now, Nate, that we are turning ourselves into machines. And I'm maybe this is a blessing that AI is saying, look, you're not that good at it. We'll be the machine. Go be a human.
Mm. But it's interesting because part of our history of being human is essentially being machines for each other, right?
Yes.
It's the cashier is a machine for us to be able to get food. The person who's driving is the machine for us to get from place to place.
Yes.
So essentially, like you're saying, we're going to replace the machine work with machines, but then where does that leave that humanity piece? Because is our humanity part of that complex about being the machine that serviced industry, or is it different, something different? And the way you're making it seem like they're entwined very heavily, right? Because who you are is also based on what you do.
Schwartz says now it's on teachers to make sure it's not a tool used to cheat,
It has immense power to, I think, revolutionize many fields.
but rather think of ways it could be used for good.
AI can't just write a brief. It can't just, write a will. but what it can do is be a useful tool.
Professor Schwartz says in the long run, artificial intelligence likely won't end up replacing attorneys, but helping them. As for if it could replace someone like me, a reporter.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll have to see.
Well, Adam Duxter, WCCO 4 News, for now.
No offense, he's wrong.
Yeah, he's wrong. He's wrong.
It's
It's
going
going
to
to replace them
replace.
both.
And the problem is this: the people it's going to replace are the people that are in his classroom right now, or at least a couple of generations of them coming up, and it directly affects him. We might have to retool law school.
Yeah.
You literally might have to retool law school to what are you generating?
Well, I want to say this about law school, and this is a secret for all you people who want to go to law school. The 3 years of law school. Now, you know how after law school you're supposed to take the bar exam, and take the bar exam is supposed to be good so you can get your license. If you go to 3 years of law school, right after you finish law school, they're going to tell you something. They're going to say, to pass the bar exam, we want you to forget everything you learned in law school, and we're going to teach it to you in 8 to 12 weeks, so 3 months. So they're going to teach you 3 years of law, enough to pass the bar. No matter which bar company you're gonna take, they're going to say, don't, whatever they taught you in law school, forget about it. Only do the law that we take, and then they give you the training, and then you go take the bar exam and you pass or fail or whatever. That is essentially what law school is. Now, the getting accepted in 3 years, that's the whole grift to get people to pay the $100,000 or $300,000 to be a lawyer. But to actually practice, you just need to pass the bar. And all law schools know this. All law schools know this. But the thing is that with ChatGPT is we're not talking about learning 3 years of law. We're talking about really just learning 8 to 10 weeks of law and being able to regurgitate it on the test. ChatGPT probably can pass the bar exam right now. And that's the thing that they don't want. They don't want to tell you. It can, because the bar exam is.
Oh, you know it can, but you know that they're going to fight anybody trying to have it do it.
Oh yeah, but it can. But if it can pass a law school exam, which is a lot more complex than the bar exam, because the bar exam is just as simple. The answers are like, if you could put a bar exam question and get the answer, it's that simple. So what I'm saying is that only reason why ChatGPT is why he doesn't believe it, but it eventually is, because that essentially is what the bar exam is. It's you taking an exam to say, I know enough law to represent somebody. I think ChatGPT can already do that. So I'm just saying, I think this is like you're saying. I think it's really close to where it is. But my whole thing is the second part to this. I think is the most important part is what happens to all of these people who are going to be out of a job, because right now we have a kind of a service-driven economy too. You know, we all, a lot of people don't realize it. We all work for each other. This YouTube channel, we're working for you, bringing you this content, trying to get you, when I go to the store, those people are working for me, right? We all are in this economy together. But now if you have all these people, reporters, lawyers, all these people who don't have this, how do they feed their families? What's the motivation for them to work? Because that's capitalism, right? The motivation, you're motivated to work to make money to feed your family. But if
this brings up the other questions.
All this stuff.
This brings up the other questions that we're going to have to face again, like universal basic income. I forgot where I saw it, but a few years back, I think I'm in Freakonomics, they were talking about how everything is getting so automated. And I think they saw this coming down. We may, in a weird way, be stepped back in time. And you have like a few scientists who are working at Google, for example, right? And then you have household staff. We may actually get back into the servant type of thing that has happened in the past. Not that I necessarily want that, but you just said we all depend on each other. And
that's our society.
That's just creating a dependency and shifting it around. You have, instead of a duke or a duchess or some highfalutin whatever, you have a data scientist, or you have this person or that person who are controlling massive amounts of things. But then what do we do with everybody else? And then we get into a whole new kind of made up work. Or there are those, and this is where it gets really dark, who say, well, that's why we need to shrink the population. And I'm not into that person.
Oh, you're talking about,
I think that's going to backfire. That's dark, evil stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I think life and I think the human population. The first thing we do is expand, right? We want to expand. I think the moon, the stuff, we that's our goal, and I think that's the goal Elon Musk and all these people are trying to do, right? Expand our reach.
Mhm.
If they allowed people to move to the moon, I would probably be one of the people looking to move to the moon, right? Because I just be like, oh my god, this is so great, even to Mars, I would, hey, sign me up. I would go. I would go. I would miss the kids though, but I would still go because it would just be it's just something exciting, and I think there's a lot of people who feel that way. But to the point of just so people understand how systemic the problem is, I think when we say it, we don't there's a difference because people can go back in time and say horse carriages, right? When the cars came out, oh, the horse carriages thing, and people, oh, groom and doom, all the horse carriages. That's that was one industry. What we're talking about is systemic in every industry. For instance, right now, self-driving cars.
Mhm.
That takes out your delivery people, your cab drivers, your this. And to be honest with you, they probably have self-driving planes already, but people aren't
Even
thinking.
worse, you're forgetting a part of the self-driving cars.
What?
It takes out the manufacturers too. And let me explain why.
Mm.
Right now, all of our cars spend the majority of their time parked.
Yes. Yes.
So this is wasting a machine as well as land. Think of how much space is eaten up by parking lots.
Mhm.
We don't need parking lots if the cars are always moving and dropping people off and in and out and things like that, right? So we don't need nearly the number of cars because my car's sitting here all day, right? I drive it. I might sit for 2 days. Maybe I don't go anywhere for a couple days.
For a week, yeah.
Or a
For-
week or whatever it is. So now if my car is just in operation out there, well, how many cars does that replace? Because a ton of people have cars that they don't drive anywhere.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
So that this is a ripple effect. So that means we don't need as many cars manufactured. We just and then you could just get into a modular type of car, so we can get rid of all the designers too, right? Because you only need one basic style or two of cars that are going to be fleets. This is going to be very fleet driven,
Mhm.
and so you can get rid of half the mechanics because you only need to keep a certain number that are on the road, and on and on and on and on. The
But not
ripple
even
effects.
but you're just talking about, see, I was even as you mentioned the car industry. That was just one, because then we're
Right, and then
talking
every
about
other
the legal
industry.
industry. Then we're talking about the chat GP, the doc. Remember they had the AI
Mhm.
where they had people go in and talk to both the doctor and give their symptoms to both the doctor and an AI. And the AI not predicted, diagnosed people so like 80% of the time, had the right diagnosis, right?
Yes,
So those would be your doctors, those would be your lawyers diagnosing your problems, those would be your reporters, all these reporters out here, all of this stuff that we depend on, that we depend on from other people. If it all goes to AI and these type of things, it's all going at the same time. I'm think this is
that's the scope and scale.
we're
Yes,
talking about in 20 years. We're talking about living in a different world. And to people may think, well, that's a long way away. Think about this. If you
it's
go
not.
back, if you take this cell phone back to 1990, this would be the most powerful computer on the planet for the next 10 years.
Mhm.
For the next 10 years, this would be the most powerful computer on the planet. Better than anything they have right now anywhere.
Mhm.
That's the scope that we're talking about just in 10 years. And I'm talking about something that's 20 years ago, right? We're talking about 2000, 1990 to
Mhm.
2000. Just imagine we'd be 20 years in the future. I'm telling you, I think people really don't understand how this technology is changing,
Keep in
and
mind
that's
too,
why.
that
Mhm,
phone you just pointed out
mhm.
is 15 years old.
Yeah, my phone is old.
No, no, no. I'm saying the technology. The iPhone came out in
Mhm.
2007.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're at 16 years this June.
Mhm.
So the point is this: that's not that long.
No,
20 years is not that long.
no.
20 years is one generation, and it's right around the corner. It's
Yeah.
right around the corner. But I mean, we can't swallow the world in one day and figure it all out. So we need to reach to the comments. What do you think? Tell us what you're most concerned with. Do you feel threatened personally for your job? And what
Yeah.
do you plan to do to adopt to this technology coming at
Yeah, that's interesting. Can a robot replace you? Can a robot replace what you do? Even if you're flipping burgers, they have the automated robots that flip burgers, right? No matter what you do, can a robot replace what you do? And if that's reading something and regurgitating it, guess what? That's what ChatGPT is doing. So is your job vulnerable? If you're a painter, is it vulnerable to this? And I would suggest that yeah, it probably is.
But
That's
let
the
us
world we're
know.
going to.
Tell us below how you feel. Are you scared? Are you happy? Are you excited? I mean, I think there's so much here. We want to hear from you. What do you think about all this?
Amen to that.